Hey everyone, it's Daniel here from Infovest. Hope you're doing well. I wanted to talk about a little bit about this recession and more about the how it's going to affect Europe and more on the European Union as well. Now, these are just my thoughts and ideas. Doesn't mean that it's going to come true. But I'm curious to know, if there are any Europeans living in Europe watching this video, or if you have your own views and ideas, feel free to always leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think. But let's talk about Europe as a whole and this whole mess that is happening with crude oil, natural gas, right? Tensions that is building up between Russia and Europe, and especially the gas pipeline. So with the lower supply of natural gas going to Europe, kind of puts a awkward situation for Europe to go out and find alternative source and rather than depending on Russia for its natural gas come December time, right? Now, interesting is that this phenomenon, this shortage that we're seeing is happening now in summer rather than December. And some might be thinking that, why is this happening now rather than December? And it's because generally what Europe does during the summertime is they import a lot of the natural gas from Russia and they store it and they get ready for the winter times so they're not fully dependent on nat gas come December. Now, Russia has come out and basically said that their turbine that they sent out to Canada is still under maintenance, and due to that, they are shipping out lower natural gas to Europe, and so that's one of the reasons. Now, you could argue anything you like, whether you think that's true or not, but the point is, and the fact is, that there are less natural gas resources being sent to Europe from Russia. Now, Europe is going around looking at other alternative sources around different countries, looking at also US to help out with the shipment of natural gas. And the idea is to basically bring Europe to a future point where they are less reliant on the commodities like natural gas from Russia, and they have other alternative sources, especially ties with, since they have good ties with the U.S., and U.S. is a big producer of crude oil and natural gas. So the anticipation is that they will be able to offset whatever their loss is. Now, the only problem with that I see is the shipping cost and the shipping time that it takes to kind of um, export natural gas and oil, crude oil to Europe from North America to Europe, and it's much more efficient and cost efficient through the pipeline, and that's why the pipeline was created from Russia to Europe. But Europe is in a very dangerous situation just because of the invasion and just because of all the sanctions and the political games that are being played. Now, what does this all mean in terms of Europe, the European Union, right? We heard today also stories that just came out that the UK is basically looking to cut power supply and energy heading into January. And basically, they're prepping for the worst case scenario that if there is a complete shut off of energy and natural gas and whatnot, they will be ready to make their adjustments, right? Which means that a lot of industries, a lot of homes, they will have to really cut down on how they use and consume energy. Now, this puts a very awkward and very difficult situation for Europe, because this is definitely going to push prices higher for natural gas, for energy, for crude oil, for other commodities as well. And it also seeps into many other businesses and sectors as well, right? When you look at crude oil, when you look at gasoline, and when you look at the cost that goes towards shipping and doing business, when your crude oil and when your gasoline and when your prices to are increasing as a business owner to ship goods and export goods, you're going to start increasing the cost and the prices of your products onto the consumer. And we're already seeing that. We're already seeing with high inflation globally, seeing it in the US, seeing it in Europe, right? Italy, Germany, and so on. They're seeing food prices increase, right? They're seeing the energy prices increase. Italy's in a very tough situation because their president or prime minister has basically left, and they're in this whole government debacle where they're trying to find who's going to replace the prime minister and the government. On top of that, you have higher energy prices. Then you have the ECB, right? The ECB, the European Central Bank, who is looking over all of these countries and trying to take Europe as a whole and guide them and steer them into kind of a soft landing, right? So we hear about soft landing a lot, that when the recession, or if the recession comes, it's going to be a soft landing, not a hard landing. And that's what all central bankers are saying, and especially Europe. But the problem is, when you have a European Union and you have all these countries like Germany, Italy, and so on, part of this union, and they have different financial strengths and weaknesses, and especially different political problems, it makes it very hard from a monetary policy point of view to make every country or state happy, right? So it if you look at, for example, Germany is a powerhouse, and you look at Italy, which is under a lot of pressure. When you start cutting rates or raising rates, especially if you start raising rates, which the ECB did, Italy is going to be under more pressure than Germany itself. And to add more tensions, the political tensions, the government tensions that their own prime minister has left, and now they're scrambling, looking for a leader, right? So it makes you think, with all of this that's happening, geopolitical tensions, supply constraints, right? Even you're getting supply constraints not only from Russia but China as well, right? Supply constraints that are happening, higher prices of oil, gasoline, natural gas, and so on. Food prices increasing. And guess what? If natural gas prices increase, that also feeds into the chemicals, feed into the fertilizer and the pesticides that goes towards farming. And we did hear some chemical manufacturing companies in Europe saying that if we don't have natural gas, we're completely going to shut off. And if we completely shut off, then guess what? If they create a lot of pesticides for the farming industry, and the farming industry in Europe is going to be affected by it, which means farmers are going to see their crops die out more because you do need the pesticides, right? People argue that, oh, why do farmers throw all these chemicals on their crops? We're eating and consuming it. Yes, because if they don't, then the insects are going to come and eat it all up, and you won't have food. So that's why they do it. But if you slow that down, and you are increasing, let's say, natural gas, or there's a shortage of natural gas, and these manufacturing plants can't use that to create their pesticides or whatever it is they need to run their plant, it's going to feed into farming industry, which is going to feed into more shortages of food, which is going to feed into higher prices of food, and it's going to affect Europe and also the world as a whole. So you've got so many risks for Europe. Definitely risk, for a lot of countries around the world, especially emerging markets, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, US, Canada, so on. But there will be different levels of it. And Europe is in kind of a very, very, I would say, a tougher situation than the US, because the political downfalls um, that is happening, especially in let's say in Italy, the natural gas problem, the crude oil problem, the shortages, the supply constraint, the fight with Russia. It's an economic battle. Plus, you have the ECB increasing interest rates. Italy's bond yields were skyrocketing, affecting Italy more. Consumers in Italy, consumers in Europe are facing higher costs plus higher interest rates. That's making it worse off. Plus Italy's big debt bubble. It makes you think, you know, that the European Union as a whole, this could, and I'm not saying this is not going to happen, but it makes you think this could be the end of the European Union. Maybe that could happen if really shit hits the fan, right? So, but we'll have to really continue and monitor and see what happens with all of the developments. And sure, if the developments get better, or they're not as bad as expected, then sure, you might see a turnaround with all of these countries out there. But with all the risks and with all the countries out there in the world, Europe is definitely in a very, very tough situation, looking for any help that they can possibly get. And with the Brexit situation of the UK, think of all other countries out there who might be thinking the same thing. And especially the weaker ones, right? Especially Greece, Italy, maybe Poland, Hungary, Netherlands, and so on, right? A lot of these countries out there might find that, we don't need to be part of the European Union. And it might be harder and harder going forward for the ECB to basically decide and balance between the ones that are stronger, like Germany, and the ones who are being affected heavily, which is let's say Italy. It might be harder for them to decide, okay, how do we navigate these waters with raising rates, cutting rates, when it's going to affect every country or state differently, right? So basically, this is just a wild assumption. I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but definitely would love to hear your thoughts. Leave your comments below. Let me know, do you think that could this recession, right? Especially, people are calling this, some people are saying that we're not in a recession. Some people say we're going to be in a mild recession. Some people say it's going to be aggressive. When I look at bond yields, they don't look, they look very scary when you look at the 10 to 2-year yield curve. At levels below 2007, touching 2001 levels, below the 1989 levels, the inversion. It's a pretty deep inversion that we're seeing. So how is this all going to play out? And on top of that, future risk with the China and Taiwan situation as well. And how U.S. and how Speaker Nancy Pelosi came into Taiwan to shake things up. You could get more supply chain disruptions. If that continues to persist, inflation is not going to go away very soon. And a lot of these countries are already facing a lot of problems are going to see it get worse. So let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment below, and I'll see you guys around. Thanks. Bye.